If I had to choose one message that my photographs, my art conveys, I would say the message is do it. Do it now, whatever it is that you want to do it now, don't put it off. You want to do a project, you want to record a song, you want to date somebody, do it now. Don't put it off, and don't listen to people that tell you can't do it or say that you're not good enough. Do it. If I would write a book about myself, a memoir of my life, I thought of a couple of things. I thought A Good Listener would be one title, but it's not so sexy. I do think that being a good listener is super important in life and also as a journalist. I think a better title would probably be, if I was like going to sell the book, I would call it At the Scene. I like At the Scene because it sounds a little bit like what people say when you're watching television news and they cut to our reporter at the scene. I have been a witness, I think, for a lot of cool things. I've been a part of a couple of scenes. My part especially was, I think, as a documentarian. As a photographer, I think it is important to get to know the people in the photographs if you can. As a working journalist, that's not always possible. My book about punk rock in Texas was the biggest, most extended documentary photography project that I ever did. I think it was probably the best photography that I did or have done so far. My favorite pictures, I think, have to do with a photographer, not just me, but others, establishing relationship either very quickly or over time. Photographs work because of a relationship, I think, between the photographer and the subject. And if there's no relationship, then I think that you can literally see it in the photograph. There's no excitement. Art is, for me, it's a great pleasure, wonderful, almost a physical sensation. It is a way of life. It can be a way of educating people. Photography for me has been a way of understanding the world. I don't think it's possible for art to be separate from politics. I do not think that there's any way. I think that everything we do is political. Let me give you an example. The singer Henry Rollins, the punk rock singer Henry Rollins, sang for Black Flag and did solo stuff. I had a chance to photograph him once, and he's an imposing guy. He's a great talker, great conversationalist, but he's also kind of, he looks like he could, take one punch and knock you out. And I spent several days with him, talking to him and then just sort of getting to know him. And at one point I took a picture of him. I don't know why exactly, but I think we were in a hotel room and I think I got up on a chair to photograph him from above, which I think was a way of having a less cluttered background. But that choice also means that I'm kind of looking down at him from this perspective of somebody that maybe is higher or bigger or more important. So I can't tell you that was some sort of conscious choice on my part, but maybe I felt like I had to somehow master him or sort of, put myself above him because he was intimidating. And that's just, I'm not saying that's political, but I'm saying that as a photographer and as an artist, every choice you make does have some sort of implication. And if you choose to photograph white people only, that's political. If you choose to photograph a black person because you want to show that there's black people at the punk rock show, that's a political decision. So I don't think you can really separate the two. There's an old saying that, you might not be interested in politics, but politics is interested in you. And I think that's quite appropriate. Well, I don't really believe in idols. I don't really believe in anybody that's some sort of a perfect person. And I'm not religious. I grew up I started photography with one very important influence was a photographer named Robert Frank, and I didn't know that much about him, but I loved his pictures, and I still do. But I recently read a book about him, and he was just kind of an asshole. He was really not a nice guy, So it's hard to have, I think it's hard to have heroes because, people are human and they're complicated, and sometimes they make great art, but they're not very nice people. But I have had a lot of great teachers. And as far as advice goes, I've gotten great advice from people. One teacher that I had in university was an art photographer, not a documentary or journalism photographer. But she said, when you're in a place and you're shooting pictures, find a corner of the room or find a chair that you can stand on or some place in the room and stay there. If it looks good when you're looking through the camera and you like the way that things look with nothing going on, just stay there and wait for things to happen in front of you. And that's very good advice. You get yourself in one place and you just wait for it. And that was good advice. The best famous person advice that I didn't get personally, but I read, the best famous advice, I think, about taking pictures was from a war photographer named Robert Capa. And Robert Capa said that if your pictures aren't any good, get closer. And it's very simple. You know, if your pictures don't have impact, you might be too far away. Get close to the action, get right in the middle of things, get in there. It's kind of ironic because he was killed in war as a war photographer. He was killed because he got too close. But, you know, it's good advice. The thing that I've done, the thing that I'm most proud of is I, for many years, was teaching refugees how to be ready to immigrate to the U.S. And I taught a class with them, and they were on their way to live in the U.S. And I prepared them in this class, and I think I taught something like 2,000 or 3,000 people over the years. So I'm most proud of that as a real accomplishment in my working life. If you want to talk about what I'm proud about in my sort of photojournalist days, I mean, I think my book, Texas is the Reason, I think is the most, it's the truest, the most complete project that I've ever completed. And I'm real happy with it. I'm especially happy that the people that are in the book, the subjects of the pictures, are also happy about it, and they're excited about it because they feel like, you know, I captured something that was real, and I wasn't just passing through and taking their pictures and then trying to become famous from their images. So I would say, as far as photography goes, that's my most cherished achievement, I would say.